morning.
Good morning.
Happy Pride Sunday. And I see so many people wearing their colors. It's great. Thank you very much. Before we do anything else, can everybody put their phones on worship mode, please? If you haven't already. Thank you. Yay! My name is Ina McBride, and I'll be your worship associate today. I'm part of an entire team of people that are working today to bring this service to you wherever you are, whether you're here or remotely. We're glad that you're here. Here at Community, we welcome people of all faiths and of no faith in particular. Whoever you are, wherever you are on your journey, you are welcome here. The calendar has gently flipped, dear ones. From Mayflowers to June glitter. We gather this morning in sacred celebration of the month of Pride, a month where we celebrate our values as Unitarian Universalists in this world that is so desperately in need of unconditional love, where values of justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, and generosity are lived in abundant love for ourselves and for each other. Now more than ever, we need celebrations and joyous affirmation of the abundance of creation in our world. Now more than ever, we gather in defiance of that which seeks to set limitations on how we center love and promote the healthy and full spectrum ways of being in the world. Now more than ever, pride means love, and love resists. Pride is a protest and a party. In the words of Reverend Hannah Vilanov, people sometimes ask, is pride a protest or a party? And the answer, of course, is yes. And why not? Why not rejoice as we resist, dance as we demand change, celebrate as we create community that delights in all of who we are? So bring all of that with you this morning. Bring your policy demands. Bring your glitter. Bring your Supreme Court broken heart. Bring your rainbow socks. Bring the emptiness you feel for our siblings gone too soon. Bring your Gloria Estefan remix. Bring your tender hope for change, and bring your most garish eyeshadow. Bring your spirit, tattered and battered by a world that seems insistent on choosing hate and fear. Gather up all these things and bring them here, to a place where we don't have to shoulder these burdens or celebrate these joys alone. Whether you define yourself based on your gender or not, whether you are queer or straight, lesbian, gay, bisexual, whether you are gender fluid or gender expansive or gender exuberant, whether you are cisgender, intersexed, or if you prefer not to say, whether your family is biological or chosen, whether you are out of the closet, taking a peek through the closet door, or if you simply cannot be out of the closet. You are welcome here. You are loved here. We love you. Let us worship together. Our chalice will be lit this morning by Robin Coulonge.
We light this flame to ignite our hearts and minds, the spark of knowledge that enlightens, the shimmer of hope that burns, the blazing love that engulfs our actions, the bonfire of our commitment. We light this flame for those who celebrate themselves, who fear, who hope, who persevere, who stand on the side of love for all. We light this flame for those who have been ridiculed, that they may find peace. For those who fought to marry, that they may celebrate. For those who live in uncertainty in the world, that they may have hope. We light this flame to renew our commitment that no one shall ever again suffer the right to love. We light this flame to celebrate our kaleidoscope of diversity, working, loving, living on the side of love. We light this flame. For love.
Each week we recite together our promise to each other on how we want to live in community together. Please join in these words. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, and to help one another.
Good morning. There is one word that is particularly vital to understanding people who are in some way different. One word that allows for the hospitality towards strangers to be real and authentic. One word for the work of being an ally to come alive. The work is imagination. Imagination is the critical piece of recognizing and honoring differences. There is no way to fully understand another person's experiences. You know your own experiences. Someone may be able to tell you about their experiences, but you can't fully understand them the way we like to think we can. In a way that is real, in a real way. We are isolated within our own experiences. I can only know what is going on from my perspective. You can tell me what you see and experience, but I have to filter what you tell me through the only connection I have with the world, and that is my own experiences. And that would be a dire scenario if that were really the end of the story, but all is not lost. There is hope through imagination. Imagination builds a bridge between what I know of my experiences and what you share with me of yours. This is why so much of religious language is built upon metaphors. I have an experience and then use analogy to tell you, to help you imagine what my experience was like. Imagination is the bridge. There are a great many things I have not experienced. I don't know what it's like to have a child die. I don't know what it's like to feel threatened because of my skin color or my religion. I do not know what it's like to be trans. I don't know what it's like to be in prison. I just don't know. I have never experienced any of these things. I can, however, gain enough of an understanding of each of these things that I can listen, because I can listen and because I've experienced many other things in my life, and I know how to listen and have a good imagination. Stretch yourself. Imagine a new possibility. Begin where you are. Listen to other people. Entertain strangers in your midst, and stay open to the hope of a new being bursting into your life in ways you have never imagined.
Our reading today is called For Pride by Lois van Leer. They will march, walk, wheel, dance, shimmy, and shake. Block upon block of undulating color, flesh, banners, signs, clothing, or lack thereof. Hands raised, hands linked, apart, together, singing, shouting, chanting, silent, joyous, tearful, nervous, afraid, proud, defiant, angry, happy, delirious, tentative, ecstatic, courageous, brave, and free. The stereotype, the unrecognizable, the flamboyant, the ordinary, the parent, the child, the runaway, the lost, the lonely, the found, gay, lesbian, bisexual, trans, queer, intersex, questioning allies. Those who taunt and jeer, their banners of hate 10 feet tall. God made Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. Burn in hell. But then the other slogans. Straight but not narrow. I love my gay child. Standing on the side of love. One day a year, 1 out of 365, Mardi Gras out of season. Festive, bacchanalian, tame, booths, food, and shopping. Underneath there is a history. Resistance. It was the marginalized of the marginalized, drag queens, transvestites, the butch and the femme, who, unlike Rosa Parks, did not sit down, but in their tired rage, stood up, rose up, fought back. Holding the police captive in their bars, they had come to raid. Their weapons, their oppression, their hands, beer bottles, Stonewall. 6 days of riots in New York, June 1969. A year later, a march in Philadelphia, then one in New York City, then Chicago, then LA, then San Fran, and now any weekend in June, anywhere around the world, there's a pride parade. Why do we march? For those who are not able, for those who have been murdered, for those who are ravaged by disease, for those who are still beaten and taunted and harassed, still victims, still targets. Why do we march? Because some truths ain't self-evident. Because all men ain't protected equally. And we love a good party. They will march, walk, wheel, dance, shimmy, and shake, block upon block of undulating color, flesh, banners, signs, clothing, or lack thereof. Hands raised, hands linked, apart, together, singing and shouting, chanting, silent, joyous, tearful, nervous, afraid, proud, defiant, angry, happy, and delirious, tentative, ecstatic, courageous, brave, and free. We are so fortunate to have 3 folks from our very own congregation to bring the message to us this morning. Our first guest speaker is Kiki Boyett. Welcome, Kiki.
Good morning. Okay, first, everyone look at my cool pride glasses. And then I have to take them off so I can see what I wrote. But you saw them, right? Okay.
You have pride hair.
I do, yeah. I'm prided out today. Okay, so I am talking about raising a trans child. And I thought about being a little flippant, because that is my nature, and talk about how, well, the first 6 weeks didn't sleep, and then later, lots of door slamming and screams of never. And for 1 week we like sushi and the next week don't. But then I realized you probably want me to focus on the trans part, not on the raising a child part. You know that part. The never, I'm sure. Never. And dramatic collapses to the floor. So we're going to focus on the adjective in the sentence. So let me say fully, I was lousy at this. I want to say I was good. My kid is great through no fault of my own. I was really bad at this. I probably would have been bad just at the raising a child part. It was not something I was great at, but I was lousy, and I still don't get it right. And that's my disclaimer, is I will never be perfect at this. So I am not standing up here saying this is how you do it, saying this is how I did it. And I will point out things that I'm pretty proud of, and I will point out things that don't do that. So, I asked first of all, the thing I think I got right about this to start is I asked permission to do this talk. I'm like, is it cool if I talk about this? You know, I talk it out of school. Not only did I get a yes, it's like, yes, can I come? And I'm like, yeah. Okay, I'm so far I'm good. I'm doing good. So, brief history. Most of it's none yet, but going up into kind of high school and college, we as a family were dealing with a string of gender, sexual identity, gender fluidity things, coupled with anxiety and depression, mostly social anxiety. Super fun as a parent, but again, it's a teenager. What do I know? Kind of ran LGBTQ, hit most of the highlights of that particular alphabet soup at some point or another. I'm like, okay, you tell me what to do. You didn't like sushi last week, now we want sushi. What are we doing today? I just tell me what name and I'll try to get it right. My personal challenges, and I have found that among a lot of people, this is a big one. Pronouns are hard, which is dumb because they're not hard. They're little tiny words and we use them all the time. But pronouns are hard. And I will tell you, here's a great cheater for those of you struggling with pronouns. You start to sound a little like the queen, but you stop using pronouns. Trey and I went to the store. Trey decided they wanted this for lunch. Trey decided to drive. And I'm like, I sound like a crazy person, but I can't get the pronoun wrong if I don't use a pronoun at all. So just a little tip for you. And of course, when I'm moving through that LGBTQ alphabet soup, the pronouns could change. And I'd be so good I got it right. And I'd be like, oh, I got it wrong because it was last week. Now this week I'll get there. It's fine. I'll get there. Luckily, my child is very understanding of my inability to get this right. This is another one that I am getting better at. I've been dealing with this for a while. But when we're talking about in the third person, my child, sounds like I have a little child. My child is here and has been for a while. Kid is a little flippant. And the only other choice you have left is son or daughter. Well, when you're raising a trans child, you want to get that right. And I'm good now. I have a son. My son came with me to church. When I talk about historical things, when I talk about my child, kid, son, daughter having the tea party with the grandfather in the feather boa, that's when I struggle to this day. And I know I have a son now. But Trey, we're back to no pronouns, it's always the easy way to do it. So that's another one. That one's, I still work on that one, but I'm getting better with pronouns. My family's been super fun. I have 3 sisters. They're all married. They all have kids. My parents are in the DFW area. My sisters are like, is Trey? Yes. Okay. One of the nieces and nephews is like, asked their mom, is Trey a boy now? And they were like, oh, yeah, okay, I'm ready for this. I got this. Yes. Okay, great, bye. Just checking in to make sure. So that was the thing is, youngest generation, they're like, okay, cool, they're still coming to Christmas, right? Okay, and it's Trey and got it. Cool, gonna go watch TV. The sisters, it took a little longer. They're still working on pronouns. The parents, I'd like to say they're making progress. I don't even think they're trying, but I try, and I try to make up for it as best I can. And then my child, who I love dearly, Trey, threw me a curveball a few months ago. Yes, you threw me a curveball. Because for the longest, he's been doing all the things as a he, my son. I'm like, got this, okay. Called me up and said, hey, can I come over? Of course, come on over. Can I raid your jewelry box? I'm like, yes. Why? Well, I'm passing too much, and I want to borrow some earrings. And I'm like, yes, these are earrings you can have. I don't have to understand what hell is going on. Yes, those look lovely on you. Sure, they're yours. Pearl earrings are great with that outfit. I don't know. But, and here's the thing, it didn't matter. I don't have to get it. I don't have to get, your opener on being an ally. I don't get it. I've never lived that life. All I have to do is say, okay, this is what you want to do now. This is how you want to be. This makes you happy. Because the moment that my child decided that was Trey and was a he, the depression vaporized. Social anxiety virtually vanished. Meds way down. That fixed. My trans child is not broken. My trans child had some mental health issues that being trans fixed. So don't try to fix my kid. There's nothing wrong with my kid. But got earrings I never see again. If that changes again, I'm trying to go with the flow as much as I can. Okay, where are we today? My kid's planning a wedding. I'm so excited. My son and his boyfriend Will are getting married at some point in spring of 26, and I could not be happier. I knew for weeks they had to order the ring and then find the right time, and it just about killed me because I couldn't do anything. And as a planner, because that is who I am, I did what every modern day scrapbooker does, is you go out to Pinterest. All the pins. And I spent hours, it's a whole day of work that I got no work done. I'm just pinning my brains out, right? And then I stepped back, figuratively speaking, I stepped back to look at my collection, and I was going to, things about outfits and what are we going to do for food and all these things. And I realized that I had all of these top 10 thing LGBTQ wedding ideas, a lot of those. And I'm like, I looked at a couple of them. I'm like, deleted all of them because I'm not planning an LGBTQ. Well, I'm not planning it. I'm not helping to plan control. I'm not helping to plan an LGBTQ wedding. I'm helping to plan my child's wedding, and that's what's important. Again, through no fault of my own, I raised a pretty cool kid. Seems to be happy, seems to be healthy, moving on with their life, has moved out of my house, has a cat, has a life, has friends, comes to visit me sometimes when they want to bring me sourdough bread. I am living the dream. So raising a trans child, you can just scratch out the middle one. It's raising a child. What the adjective is, raising a spirited child, raising a trans child, raising a hellraiser child, raising a child who totals so many cars. I didn't have to worry about that. I reasonably got it pretty easy, and I couldn't be prouder. So, thank you.
Thank you, Kiki. Thank you for sharing her. Our next speaker is Toney. Autumn?
So it's called Some Thoughts because I wasn't sure what I was going to say today. And I've been in that place for a while. A couple of weeks ago, Rabbi Katz came in and he talked to us about Hillel and Shammai. I'm going to recap for a second. So you got Shammai, and he's like Wile E. Coyote, and Hillel's like the Roadrunner. And they have these great arguments about what's right and what's wrong, and basically the argument itself is sacred. So I don't know right now whether I'm going to be Hillel or Shammai. You got me? Okay. So yeah, that's the nature of kind of where I'm going with this. So first I want to thank the welcoming committee for encouraging me and volunteering me kind of to come up here and talk to you. And the welcoming committee basically is the speakers, save for Sarah, who came up here and did some talking too. But Pat and Kiki, me, and Ina, we all get together some Tuesdays when we remember and have conversations. So yeah, I want to thank them. And I'd like to note that we are a welcoming congregation. I got the paperwork. I asked Kiki to send me the checklist. So we have a checklist that we go through, and I got like a list of things that we are here. We've got 2 welcoming worshiping services, 2 worship services for the LGBTQ, focus. So that was the first of the month and today. We've got 6 days of observance. We've got 1 religious education that's required, but we did 2, so exceeding expectations, And we have 1 project, which was Share the Plate. But I need to ask if we're checklist people. Is that who we are? Do we stop at checklists? Do we define ourselves by the representation, by what UUA says that we are based upon a checklist? And is that how we exist, as a congregation? We've got flags up front. Say, hey, but when people come in, do they experience the same thing? And do we think about that? Do we exist in that place? And I'm speaking not just to the people here and not to the people online, but like to the people not here too. Like maybe all of y'all are like, the conversation starters. Maybe all of y'all are Hillel and Shemais too, thinking about how to be more welcoming. Maybe it's incumbent upon all of us to think about it rather than it being a congregational thing, it being an individualized thing. And just the welcoming committee and the welcoming status is just a starting point. So I think the idea is that this is our home. This church is our home. And when people come as guests, we want them to eventually call this home too. And to be welcoming, like if we have house guests, if you have people that come over, do you have to kind of give up a little bit? Do you have to become a little less comfortable to make other people more comfortable? And what does that look like? And that's an individual thing. That's not something we all decide. I mean, there are, the congregation versus the individual. But how do we become more welcoming? How do we how do we actualize our representations? How do we make our representations actuals? So, how do we get people to call this home? Because if we look around, we can see who feels welcoming here just by looking at who's here. So we have to think about who's not here. The people that come here that leave, why didn't they stay? Because anyone that comes in this door, they're looking for something. Everywhere else has failed. If they're here for some type of spiritual enrichment, spiritual home, everywhere else has failed. Otherwise, they wouldn't be here. All of us had failures, a string of them probably, until we found our home. So if we're home and we feel welcoming, we can give a little space. We can make ourselves a little less comfortable because we don't just want guests and we don't want our guests to feel comfortable. We want them to move in. We're U-hauling here. That's what's going on. So, and then when they get here, when our guests get here, they could ask for accommodations. They could say, hey, this would be cool. This would be cool. This would be cool, right? But that's accommodations. That's accommodating. That isn't the act of welcoming. That's accommodating. Like, if we had like if today was the first day that a Muslim family came to this church, would they find pork? I mean, I know we do vegan and vegetarian options, but we have 2 banners back here that don't eat pork. So do we have pork in our, and that's just a offshoot thing, but all of us can think about these things in these ways. And it doesn't just have to be LGBTQ+. It can be any way of being welcoming for who should be here, who we want to be here, who may walk in that door. We need to carve out that space in us, in church, in the congregation to say, these people will feel welcome. Even if they don't see themselves here, they won't see not welcome. They won't see, oh, well, you need to ask. Oh, you need to change things. Because there will already be signals and ideas that are expressed clearly. And that's up to us. That's not something, like we can't just put up a banner and go, hey, because that gets into the representations again. So, what are the individual and congregational responsibilities, and how do we differentiate, and how do we even do that, right? And that's up to each of us. That's the conversation. That's my Hillel and Shammai, that's all of our own Hillel and Shammais in us having that conversation internally. It's trying to figure out, what can I do? I'm just a random person that shows up every, few weeks to come to church, but how can I be more welcoming? How can I make it so that anyone who's not like me even can look around and go, oh, this place is all right. This place is somewhere I can call home. So, and when we think about welcoming, the welcoming committee, and it's not something we've talked about, but to get corporate on you, what are our KPI, right? How do we see success? Do we define it by our flagpole? Do we define it by the flags? Do we define it by the menu and do we define it by the banners? Or is there some other intangible thing? And each of us has to think about that. Like the congregation that we are, the congregation we want. And as this becomes more and more people's homes, how much ground are we willing to give? Is it ground that we're giving at all? Is it just a space that we need to make? Rather than giving ground, there's plenty of extra. It's, ephemeral. So that's the crux of what I'm saying. I don't know how long I've gone. I had like 8 minutes, but it feels like forever. It feels like a minute. I don't know. So, but yeah. So that's what I would like us to think about, is how to be more welcoming in general, how to be more welcoming in ourselves, how to bark, and I mean bark, at leadership on how to make this place better. Like, for instance, we have a child here today. We have a child room over there. And I invite anyone to go in there and sit in the chair that's in there and see how it feels. Because I'm not a mom, and I go in there because people. But anyway, yeah, so I just ask everyone to think about how to be more welcoming. And if you're interested in joining the welcoming committee, join us. Yeah, we have really fun conversations. Yeah. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Autumn. And our last speaker is Patricia Lander. Welcome, Patricia. Pat.
This isn't in my talk, but I remember who spoke to me when I first came. Deb and Bob, each wearing a blue shirt, and they apologized they hadn't planned to match. And Sarah helped me when I almost fell down because there was something about who had died that year. It's really nice, and I hope we all try. Unfortunately, I don't come too often, but maybe I'll just have to buy Uber and come more often. Okay, now this is the talk, and it's 8 minutes too, and it's celebrating diversity without complete answers, and I'm really finishing up what I started last year. Last year, I spoke about some queer history and my own coming out as a lesbian in midlife at a time in the 70s when feminists debated self-discovery or even feminist choice. That sounds wrong today. And that day, in church chat, 2 questions were raised which didn't really get answered. So that's why I'm talking today. The questions were, is queer like being left-handed? And how do our genes influence our queerness? Meanwhile, Jodie Foster had a pride message last week on Facebook. That's how I keep track. I'm an anthropologist of what's going on in the world, but it gets worse every day. And Jodie Foster said, quote, being gay is like being left-handed. You see, it's an idea out there. Being gay is like being left-handed. Some people are, most people aren't, and nobody really knows exactly why. It's not just a casual comment for many. It is political because of the consequences. If you're not born gay, did your mother over-pamper you? Were you abused? What went wrong? Can't you change? I'm not an expert. I just spent the last few months catching up on these topics. I like excuses to read. And all the while wondering if we're asking the right questions. Concerning left-handedness, do you know the answer? It's just recently that we have some news based on a recent large project out of the Netherlands. It seems that left-handed is most likely a prenatal genetic condition because we observe through ultrasound scanning that 10 to 12% of human fetuses wave their left hand more and suck on their left thumb. We really look an awful lot in science these days. Sometimes I worry. If it's not machines, it's mice or whatever, but I better be careful. I'm off script. Okay. It is hypothesized out of the study in the Netherlands that there is a randomness in early embryonic brain development associated with a particular gene. It has a name, TUB4B, which influences a protein for brain development and left-handedness. It's possible other genes still to be located are involved, but this find seems significant. So there's our left-handedness. Now, it's also interesting, did you know, that numerous studies show a higher than average proportion of gay men and trans women and persons who consider themselves asexual are left-handed. Now, this is all sampling, believe it or not. Something's going on. There is more to discover, but it's just much more complex when we discuss human sexuality. We hear Lady Gaga's song, Born This Way, and read Gilbert Baker, who we heard about today, the creator of the first rainbow flag, and in his memoir, Rainbow Warrior, he simply states, I was born gay, and I always knew it. Page 3. Yet there is no firm evidence of a major gay gene, in spite of earlier reports about the size of the gay male brain. You know, they study men much more. Or a certain HQ28 region on the X chromosome. The largest to date genome-wide study at Harvard and Broad Institute of MIT in 2019 examined hundreds of genetic variants with the help of the UK Biobank and the genetic testing company 23andMe, although they went bankrupt. The study found many possible associations between genetic variants. They looked at things like smell and other things, balding. They tried hard, but while they found various possible associations, they state that all the genetic effects they located would only account for a small percentage of variation in male and female same-sex sexual behavior. The researchers stressed there is no way to predict sexuality from a genetic analysis, and indeed some of the gay scientists don't want the study published, or didn't want it. It is out. You know, it's out, but you can only get the abstracts unless you have a scientific association. There's something about science, it is political, and sometimes they think it's dangerous. I'm off track. So where are we? We do have smaller findings suggesting genetic and or hormonal links. Twin and family studies have given some hints. Some research has looked at, this is interesting, fraternal birth order effect. Fraternal birth order effect. That's noting the younger biological brothers who have older brothers who are straight and who themselves are gay. This is a pattern. They're also usually of lower birth weight and all in the same family. I'm going to skip a little. This was discovered by a British psychiatrist in a mental hospital in the 60s, and it did seem to work out, and then every time they look at it, it seems to work out. And so now they've hypothesized, and this is interesting, that after giving birth to 2 or more other males, right, the older brothers, the mother's immune system may make antibodies against male-specific factors, proteins, in her uterus. We get allergic to them. This is the new science, and they are calling it an alloimmune response, and research suggests the protein may be neurolignin, which functions in the development of the nervous system in male fetuses. But, get this, it only holds if the son is right-handed. It's too complex. I had fun reading all of this. There are even other studies about what happened in the last generation, etc. I do have a handout if any of you like reading. So let me jump ahead. One study of interest to me as a lesbian has suggested that there is a link between some lesbians were harder to pin down, and the possibility of prenatal testosterone exposure. I've been wondering about my mother. Here, the ratio of one's ring finger to index finger, I can't do it right. Here, the ratio of one's ring finger to index finger, which is said to be established before birth. Okay? So when we say there isn't anything genetic, that's not true. We just don't have one big package, right? Okay, let me finish this sentence. Here the ratio is taken as a sign of both sex and sexuality. Imagine. It sounds like a parlor game. You can all look at your fingers later. But it seems to hold true often. Not always, often. You can ask me about it later. Okay, finishing. Genes, hormones, changing social norms. We didn't talk about that. There are various possibilities, but no exact answers. Let me end by mentioning the work of Nathan Lentis, an evolutionary biologist from the City University of New York, where I used to teach. That means it's a good place. His book, The Sexual Evolution, and I'm giving the book to the library today because I need to read it in my own print. The Sexual Evolution, How 500 Million Years of Sex, Gender, and Mating Shape Modern Relationships. That book gives a broad framework for acceptance. He reminds us that homosexuality today is not unique. We are part of a very long cross-cultural and historical presence, not to mention our primate heritage. You might not want to call the bonobo stuff lesbian, but, you know, animals do a lot too. Where am I? Oh, shoot. So, we may well be born with a predisposition for queerness. I'm not saying we're not. We may well be born and be influenced by genes or hormones researchers still try to uncover, and which will develop more or less fully depending on environmental factors. We haven't thrown that out either. But we can't fully explain it. So, whatever the science says, we must be both brave and joyful. And you were saying earlier, rejoice and resist, right? Because we reflect the diversity of humankind. And diversity is powerful. And as an old slogan says, we're here, we're queer, get used to it. And another old slogan was, make love, not war.
As our worship time comes to close again, we recite these words together to extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Spirit of life, if you have a lesson for us, it's that all life is beautiful. We are each born into this world who we are, tall or short, with our own color of skin, with our own sexual orientation. How can anyone ever tell us that we are anything less than beautiful, anything less than whole? We pray that this nation and every nation will remember their duty to protect human life, and particularly the lives of LGBTQ plus persons fleeing danger and death. We pray for those who are forced from their homelands and their cultures and their religions, not because of some fault or some sin, but because of who they are, who are placed in grave danger simply for being the person they were born to be. We pray also for the enlightening of governments here and around the world, who, with casual disregard for life, deport those refugees back to their unfeeling homelands to face near certain death. All human beings are born free, equal in dignity and rights. They are endowed with reason and conscience. May we all act toward one another in affirmation of our common humanity. May it be so. Amen.